if you're an experienced, confident, empowered paraplanner, your value now is on par with a planner. The value that someone behind the scenes, the expert view, the sort of the scientist testing hypothesis, not being driven by targets, actually is a massive driving force for good within firms. If you treat your staff well, they look after the clients well, and you look after the clients well, it looks after the shareholders. And that really is sort of the magic formula that I think in the future will set out the good firms from the great firms.
Welcome to another episode of Talk FS. Talk FS is designed for professionals entering or in the financial services industry, such as financial advisors, mortgage advisors, paraplanners, and business owners. Talk FS aims to offer insights and guidance by interviewing key individuals from the industry, exploring their career paths, challenges, and successes. Today, I'm joined by Sam Patterson, Head of Proposition, who plays a vital role in overseeing financial advisors and support staff across his firm. Sam's focus is on ensuring high-quality client outcomes, operational excellence, and the professional growth of his teams. With a passion for developing people and driving positive change, Sam brings a unique perspective on leadership, culture, and the evolving direction of financial services. Today, we'll be exploring why Sam recommends a career in financial services and what makes a strong, cohesive team. Sam, thank you for joining me today and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So I know I do ask this question regularly on the podcast, and I do feel it's always a good one to ask, is going to the start of your journey in the industry, and then we can always explore, your path you've taken once you came into it. So for you, Sam, what drew you into the industry in the first place?
I think I bet all you guests say the same thing, which is I fell into financial planning. Actually, it's not quite true for me. My parents were both in the profession.
Okay.
And so I was aware of it. And I remember it was my brother's 18th birthday. We were out for a meal as a family. And it was my dad just dropped in that if you became a financial planner, you could earn around £100,000. That was it. That's what I wanted to do. Let's go give that a go. So it was really, I wasn't aware of it really from my education to university. It was just that one off-the-cuff comment. And I knew that's what my parents were involved with. So maybe in a way I did fall into it. But yeah, that's really how I got into it. It was just, oh, hang on, that's the financial reward with financial planning. Let's go give that a go. What's the worst that happens is that actually I'll learn a bit more about investing and tax. And I mean, even if it doesn't work out, at least I'm building some good skills. So yeah, that's really how I really entered the profession.
Well, I'll draw back to this in a minute in terms of at what point did you then, what you were wanting out of the industry change? Because it sounds like initially it was the money factor was an element, but I'd love to know how that's evolved since all those years ago. But as I mentioned in the intro, you're now head of proposition, and I want to go into that in terms of what that is. But let's go. We've got point A and point B now, haven't we? What is the journey in between that for you?
So yeah, I did a geography degree at Newcastle, and about halfway through that is where that conversation with my dad happened. I then realised, what do I do? How do I get into financial planning? So I did a couple of internships just during my university, one in London, one down in Leicester, and it was actually the job in Leicestershire that offered me a job, which was a bit of a relief. May of my final year, while I'm stressing over a dissertation, it was, would you like a job afterwards? I was like, yes, please. That sounds great to me. So I started off as a traditional paraplanner role. I was supporting advisors with the auto-enrollment presentations. I entered in 2015. So it was when auto-enrollment was a real theme for a lot of planners. And there I entered it going, I want to be an advisor, but a paraplanner is a way to learn the products, learn the systems, learn how client meetings work, to do my qualifications and then become an advisor. I did about a year in that role, and looking back, while I'm grateful for it, it was a new area. I didn't have any friends in that area. I thought I'd play some rugby and meet some, make a social group there. A few concussions put an end to that sort of dream. So I ended up essentially just doing my qualifications quickly, but I never really settled or made roots. So I left after a year, had a couple of months out, went traveling, saw the world, went to Thailand because no one's ever done that before. And then thought, right, okay, now it's time to crack on. I'll join somewhere in Manchester, it's close to home. And I joined Equilibrium Financial Planning. And again, still joined here thinking I'll be a planner. And very quickly after joining here, having seen actually there's different routes in this profession, not just a step up to a planner, I went into management at that stage. And it's worth saying here, actually, I think joining Equilibrium was probably the best thing for me at that stage. So for those that haven't heard of us, we are 1.4 billion under management, under one roof, and we only have 7 advisors. Now, the reason we only have so little advisors are we call them client managers. It's essentially a paraplanner role. Is also the first point of contact for clients. They're in every client meeting. They're allocated to clients. So you got a lot of experience actually speaking, preparing, similar to actually what a lot of advisors will be listening to this going, that's sort of what I do. And I'm glad I came into this role, or sort of essentially fell into it by chance at Equilibrium. Because I really realized that actually my passion is getting more out of the people around me. I wanted to get my team, to develop them, to grow them, in the same way probably that planners want to do the same with their clients, apart from, well, actually, I'm with these people every single day. I'm not seeing them every 6 months or every quarter or every year. I went into the management route, had that role for just over 4 years until I turned around and went, okay, I'm 28 at the time. Let's take a risk. I got married. I've got my house. So I left and set up my own businesses. One is Aimo was a consultancy business, where I was essentially training firms how to get more from their power planning teams. How can you empower that amazing resource a lot of firms have? Actually, they're not making the most of them. Like simply, advisors are more expensive than power planners if you're taking a run-of-the-mill look at it. So if you get your power planners doing more, they feel more empowered, and actually they feel better about their own jobs, but also as a firm, the commerciality stack up as well. On top of that, I set up mentoring. I joined the mentoring program, which is the Power Planning Club. And that's all just a free nationwide mentorship program for power planners around the country. Because I think we all know that power planners can work in their silos. So how do you know if you're doing a good job, and how do you want to get better? And really the mentorship program is just to help those to learn from other people that are all working in the same profession as us. I did that for 2.5 years and I loved it. I was working for myself. I could pick where I worked, when I worked, who I worked with. It did get a bit lonely though, just working in a bedroom or with firms. You were short-term contracts essentially. And that's where when the opportunity to return to Equilibrium came up. It was one that I just couldn't really say no to. And that's where the head of proposition role really came from.
Fantastic. Well, really interesting background you've got there. And I mentioned earlier on in that question is you were introduced to financial services about the money element of it, but it sounds like why you like financial services has changed from there. And I'm sure there's probably still an element of money as there is for everyone. But what is it for you now that makes you passionate about financial services as an industry and as a profession?
It's the impact we have, I think. For me, financial planning changed my life personally. I think it gives you a sense of commitment, a sense of shared vision, a sense of purpose. Is that through doing these qualifications? It's easy to talk down qualifications, certainly in terms of the technical knowledge. There's always the qualifications versus experience argument. What qualifications do give you is a purpose, goals. It's that you're trying to hit things. And that changed me. It gave me a confidence that I really struggled with before the profession. Right now, what I love is just actually properly changing people's lives. It's easy to say the clients, look, a lot of my mates went into the big four, accountancy, audit, and it's just big companies with bigger numbers. Actually, in financial planning, yes, there are still massive numbers, some big numbers flying about, but it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith sat on the other side of the table that no matter how much money they have on paper, they're still worrying about going out twice a week or worrying about changing the car. And it's that developing the coaching element with clients that I really like. I like as well the impact you can have on not just the clients, but the clients' families. Also, often it's just that reassuring clients they have got enough. I've never come across a client that thinks they have enough without being reassured of that, no matter how many zeros they have. And there's sometimes a lot of zeros. But then the impact it can have on their kids. When clients talking about, oh, my daughter, my son have got a newborn and they're worrying about going back to work and 2 or 3 days in nursery, and how does that work? And actually, mum and dad, have you sort of considered giving them some money on a regular basis? And this is how it works for you. And then this is the impact you can have on your son or daughter. And it's that, I think, real world impact is why I still fell in love with this profession and still love what we do. And on top of that, there's some fantastic people in this profession. I've never met anyone in this profession that doesn't want to do the right things for the clients, doesn't want to do the right things for their colleagues. The Paraplanner Club, the mentorship program, we have 140 mentees that are supported by about 28 mentors. They're all volunteering the time. They don't get anything financially from it, but the reward they get from helping others, I think that's such a great sign and a great showing of what this profession can really do, not just for clients, but also those working within it.
So that's an amazing answer and really appreciate that. And I think for me, one thing that's triggered when you're explaining that is I'm going to make an assumption here. And I would say during your early days of joining Equilibrium, you must have had a great manager that you worked under, because it sounded like you were a little bit lost. You didn't know exactly what path you were going to take. And something really stuck with you at some point. And for me, what often I see, and I'm fortunate in my role of recruitment, I'm speaking to people changing careers and managers and business owners. Often it's a manager that makes a big difference for people. Is that fair to say for you?
Absolutely. I remember, so I joined Equilibrium on the 7th of August, 2017. And the reason I remember that date so well is on my first day, I was actually updating my CV in a meeting room upstairs for a recruitment job, for a marketing job, for any other profession job. I just wanted to move to Manchester. Equilibrium was a lot of holidays. It won best companies to work for. The culture was amazing. So I thought, worst that happens, I get my foot in Manchester city centre, a company that's not bad to work for. I can update my CV, and once I'm there, I can go into whatever I want. And actually, it was within, it almost, it's not instantly, is it? But a couple of weeks, it was like, no, this is different. This place really sees the individual working within the wider team. And for me, that manager was, my manager at the time was Lucy. Lucy she's been at Equilibrium for, I don't know how long, far longer than I have, 18 years or so. But she really is, her role is head of development here. And she's someone that just saw something. Now, at the time, I was shy, I was nervous, I had my diploma, but probably not much else. She just saw something in me, or whether she's helped to fan something in me. And it's amazing, actually, that confidence, someone just giving you some belief that you don't have in yourself, and then what you can achieve. Similar to you, as part of my mentoring, I think our mentorship program really only exists because ideally a manager should be your mentor. It's nice to have an external perspective, but far too often do you see actually people are coming to us because they're not feeling guided by their own manager in some instances. And yeah, I was incredibly lucky with Lucy and the effort and the time she put into me. And maybe she actually doesn't even realize it. Maybe she does now looking back, but at the time, I bet she didn't realize actually a bit of coaching here or there and a bit of mentoring here or there, the impact that it can have, just compounding over time. Because that's something in this profession you sort of look at is with clients, we always talk about compounding interest, start investing early in what it can do. But no one ever talks about that now with development in careers and putting time in and skills in early on in your profession and how that builds over time and time and time. Because I think people are pretty astounded by the impact it can have over a number of years.
Wow. I'm glad my assumption was right there. And
well, I could have said, no, Ryan, actually, you're completely wrong.
good on Lucy, hey. And I think if I'm going to put my recruiting hat on for a minute, it always saddens me to see people leave the industry. And the first thought I always have when people say I'm leaving the industry is I want to ask them the question, is it the job or is it the company you're within which is pushing you away? Because I feel people, if you're not happy for whatever reason, maybe it's the culture in the company you're in right now isn't right for you and you need to maybe move. And your story is interesting, is you joined financial services because you heard there was a lot of money to be made as a financial advisor. You then joined a firm, it didn't massively align with you, went off traveling, found another firm in the same industry, didn't even join it with necessarily long-term intentions there, but someone along the way taught you that it is a good industry, and actually your plan to become a financial advisor has dwindled because you're far more passionate about the other area, which is the power planning, which is getting far more light shone on it than it used to back in 2017. And that was down to someone having a big influence on you.
I think it
And I
is.
think that's really nice to hear.
It's the timing as well. Look, if you took me now, so I'm chartered now, I've got my qualifications. If you took me now and put me in my first role in Leicester, I'm sure I'll be a financial planner. Given the timings, maybe I would have. But at the time, it wasn't that the firm wasn't right. The timing was just wrong. I think that's really just important to say to people. I think we can put ourselves under so much pressure, which is what's on LinkedIn or what you hear your colleagues doing, which is if you don't achieve this by this time, sack it in. It's just working with the timings. And it took me my whole career. I've been asked, why am I not a financial planner? I'm chartered. I've had loads of client contact. As part of my role now, I have to understand the advice and the reasons why you give advice and what segments and how it all works. For me, it's just not where my passion was. And actually, yes, you came into it looking at for money. I think my whole belief is when you find someone that's passionate about something and give them some resource behind it, the money comes, the value comes. And it's why actually I think I'm really excited where this profession is going to go now in the future, is because there's so many opportunities. I'm sick to death of people telling power planners that the role is going to go because of AI. I actually think it's going to massively expand the power planner role and probably make it far more valuable to firms. I'd hedge to say, actually, if you're an experienced, confident, empowered power planner, your value now is on par with a planner. Certainly back that in any sort of organization, the value that someone behind the scenes, the expert view, the sort of the scientist testing hypothesis, not being driven by targets, actually is a massive driving force for good within firms, but also commerciality, helping to drive forward, give a great service to clients. You get more referrals, means the shareholders are kept happy. Again, it's just looking at that client service, and firms that I see that are really successful and the market leading in this profession, it is that the way they look at it, which is treat the staff best. Because if you treat your staff well, they look after the clients well, and you look after the clients well, it looks after the shareholders. And that really is sort of the magic formula that I think in the future will set out the good firms from the great firms.
I totally agree with you, and I'll love to pick your brains in a minute in terms of where you see the industry going, particularly with adopting technology and stuff. I totally agree with you, and actually, I think it's going to become easier to suss out those who are cutting corners with technology, because we're hearing clients using ChatGPT, for example, to say, "What shall I be doing?" And if someone's giving the bare minimum service to a client, you might start to be found out. But we'll pick that up in a minute, because I want to find out about your role as head of proposition. In my eyes, I've been in this industry for over 10 years, and you don't hear many people with the job title head of proposition. So I'd love to understand from you, what is your role, and how are you helping advisors? How are you helping clients? How are you helping the overall journey?
It's a great question. A proposition is a bit of a sort of it's not a very commonly held title, certainly within financial planning. But I'm sure anyone listening to this, if I said to them, are you busy in your day job? Whether you're an administrator, a power planner, a planner, they're going to say yes. So actually, if you're so busy with the day to day, how do you think on what's next? How do you think about preparing for April 2027? How do you think about, hang on, we know there's a wealth gap between the generations. So how do we start to branch out and interact more with the younger generation? Because you're so consumed with your day-to-day job. And that's really what my role is here at Equilibrium as head of proposition, is what do we do at Equilibrium and why we do it? So over the past year, it's been a lot on estate planning sort of products. We've had obviously the change to AIM legislation, which was a headline in October. It then got changed again. And then actually the rumours started in August last year. And then the budget in November changed it again. So it's constantly evolving. We're sort of in how politics is at the moment. There's just a constant revolving level of speculation around budgets. And actually, so my role is taking that information in and then looking how we apply here. So actually, to help with our advisors and power planners is essentially, this is our playbook. So again, every client's different, but this is a client segment. So someone coming to retire, let's say clients coming to retire at 65. When should we start doing enhanced cash flow planning? When should we start doing enhanced sort of expenditure analysis? When would an annuity be suitable? When would flexible access drawdown be suitable? When would these fancy new sort of fixed term annuities, when's that suitable? And it's actually having the freedom to go and test these different ideas that are around and presenting it to our advisors, presenting it to our client managers, going, here are these different options. You've seen premium bonds. Now, I say to lots of advisors, what do you think about your clients having premium bonds? And everyone will say it's a poor rate of return. Well, actually, NS&I have recently allowed advisors to submit letters of authority. So actually, if you're an advisor, you can now get an LOA signed, analyze the return that client actually had. And then you can present it to the client saying, do you still like it? Now, some do because it's a lottery win every month on a Wednesday and the winnings are tax-free. So it might be a nice to have. But really, my role is looking at all these different aspects, everything that's out there. Because loads of, I don't have the stats to hand, but every firm says the whole of market. It's really actually quite an impossible job to be a whole of market. Every single provider, every single product, you wouldn't do anything else apart from one client a year. But really, my role is looking out there at the whole of market, looking what works, what actually I think our clients would benefit from, and then really putting it into an accessible way for our advisors and client managers to understand it and also recommend it for our clients.
It must be such a fascinating role. Like you said, it's always changing for you, but you use the word playbook in terms of trying to give some element of structure so that I guess those in the day-to-day job can follow a path, and you're the one setting out that path a lot of the time. It must be fascinating for you.
Again, and this is where actually I played my paraplanning background. Too often I think if you're extroverted, you're an advisor, and if you're introverted, you're a paraplanner. I actually think of a better analogy is, or a better description is, an advisor is an artist. They're responsible for painting a pretty picture in front of a client, reacting to what they say and drawing the picture that the client could do. The scientist is the person behind the scenes that doesn't really have an agenda and just tests different hypotheses. Okay, you want to do this, but have you considered this, and this? And it's actually those skills that paraplanners learn that any paraplanner listening have learned, whether they realize it or not. Actually, when my role now is head of proposition, which is what do we do and why do we do it? Actually, when you're coming into it with an impartial view, that you can just test on the merits, the drawbacks of different options, and then presenting it, making a view on it. It's actually where you can see where the paraplanning role helps to play into my role now. And it's very, as soon as you got those skills, it's very easy to show the value add. So how do you interact with client kids? How do you put a bit of behavioral finance, the psychology behind getting families better involved and kids involved with their parents' affairs? Because I think if someone listening, which is, okay, what could I do within my firm to add some value to my firm? If you can start getting your next generations of your client kids, well, who are they? It's a big fact-finding exercise, isn't it? It's who are they? What's their living? And actually, they start to be incorporated as part of the parents' plan, especially with pensions coming back into the estate, that you could draw out pensions, income from a parent's pension, pay tax, but then don't worry, it's because you're offsetting tax potentially for a kid at a higher level. It's all these angles. So yeah, my role now, I love it. I get a lot of freedom to be able to test different ideas. And it's just, as long as I can prove the benefit it's adding to our clients, to our advisors, and also the client managers.
And how did you manage to get the different departments within the business to marry so well together? Because you must be distributing this information, but you maybe have to share it in a slightly different way depending on who you're giving it to, and then getting everyone to be in unison together. How'd you get that marriage working so well?
It's to work out what people best at. So I'm good at thinking of new ideas. So I know that's what I'm good at. I'm good at joining dots and thinking of different things. And to actually put that into a very clear, logical process that every person can follow, I'm not best at doing that here. So actually, I know exactly who is best at. So get them involved to do that. Here at Equilibrium, we're 100 people strong at the moment. As I said, only 7 are advisors, about 40 client managers. So half of our business are not client-facing. We don't have administrators. We've got a team of sort of 6 data scientists. So if I'm looking at a new platform that I quite like the look of, actually, I'm not the best person to speak to that platform to look at the tech underneath the scenes. So it's to then get one of our data scientists to do that. In terms of regulations, again, I'm not the best person at compliance and regulation. So I'll get our head of best practice in to come look at that for me. So the real thing is saying, this is why I think it's important, and then just stepping out of the way. To get it over the line at equally, it's not about me, it's about the clients. It's about, okay, this is an idea, now who is best to do it? That's my real philosophy with teams, which is who's the best person at it, give them some resource and let them crack on, just get out of the way. There's no point in me trying to micromanage someone else or keep on checking up with someone that they'll do it better than I will. Having said that, again, it's a good soundbite. We just work together very well here. We've quite a long-standing team. There's multiple people that have been here in the decades. Colin founded this business. He's still the CEO. He's still in here 5 days a week, still sees clients, and he's been here 30 years, found it from his bedroom. So we are a close-knit group of, we do work together well. But the main thing, the whole culture is, if you're good at it, everyone else get out of the way and let them crack on with it, because otherwise you'll just slow them down.
It sounds like it's got a really good outfit there. And I'm going to draw upon a bit of your mentoring experience now. If you've got someone that is in a smaller firm or a less well-processed firm who wants to make some of those impacts, or who wants to do the value add, but they don't feel their business is well set up for it, but they've got no plans of leaving their current firm, what could they start to do themselves to try and begin that process organically growing in their own firm that they're part of right now?
It's a really hard question to ask, because every firm, as you'll know, is so different. My main thing is, a lot of it comes from confidence. So a lot of the people I come across with, they say that, and it's like, but what have you done about it? Oh, I haven't done anything. Well, why not? Oh, I can't do that. That's not how it works. But why not? Very often, actually, if you're a small firm, whilst it can have its disadvantages, the benefits is normally you're quite close to the decision makers. It's not like you've got layers and layers of management. Normally you're working with one of the directors. Now, put yourselves in a director's shoes. They're a business owner. Think of the commerciality around what you want to say. So one that I had recently with a paraplanner is a suitability report. And we're talking, they were like, my suitability reports aren't very good. They're not very good. They're too long. They're too clunky. It's like, we'll make them shorter. Oh, we can't do that. I was like, why? If a suitability report is shorter, it's quicker for you to do, so you'll be able to do more of them. If it's easier to understand language, then clients are going to understand it quicker and they're not going to have loads of questions. If it's generic information, we'll take it out of the suitability report and design just a brochure and just then give that alongside the suitability report. So a lot of it is people think, I've got these ideas. Well, it's okay. So put in place a plan to put them into action. And I think we started the whole conversation, which is I got into it because I heard how much money you could earn. And my motivations have changed. But at the end of the day, I've got a job, you've got a job, people here all have jobs. There is a level of commerciality. So if you're someone listening going, how do I make change at my firm? Well, think of the commerciality about it. Think of the benefits about it. A big one, I mentioned Equilibrium in our structure. Our client managers co-sign reports. So this advice is given by Ryan. The report was written by Sam. So any questions, please email Sam at sam.patterson@equilibrium.co.uk. Now, Equilibrium, our client managers are trained to deal with conversations like that. It's part of what attracts people to us, is that client exposure. Some paraplanners that are potentially not after that level of client exposure would hate the sound of that. So instead of having a telephone number, have an email. And again, how do you sell that to a director, which is, well, how many questions do you got in the back of suitability reports? And imagine if I could answer them for you. Again, you're getting more exposure, you're developing, you're adding more value, and actually, therefore, you can ask for a greater remuneration package yourself because you're leveraging your advisors. So I think for me, it sounds a bit cynical, which is just, what does the money say? But money does talk. And that's why, again, why I love this profession is that actually, if you do the right things for the client, the money normally follows. And suitability reports, I use it sort of a throwaway example, but that is my biggest tip. If you're a power planner listening and you're looking for make an impact, change your suitability reports. Try and get them shorter, 1 to 2 pages. Imagine actually having a suitability report that you knew every single client actually read and valued. Because all too often I meet power planners saying I do a five a week and I know they get left behind by the client, or it's too much nonsense in it. Well, just change it. I don't go rogue, obviously, run it past your planners and your directors first, but there's not, just because it's a certain way now doesn't mean it can't be changed. And that's what I think is really missing at the moment, is sort of power planners having that confidence to go, no, this is my space. This is suitability reports, analysis. This is my domain. This is how it can get better. And those that do that really do stand out.
And is that where you see the industry's going to have a change, or has all that train's left the station already? It's beginning where businesses are operationally going to start changing the way they work?
Yeah, they have to. Look, so I was looking at a business plan for our business plan over the next 5 years. What do we want to achieve in this year? What changes are coming up? What's the marketing strategy to do with it? The words that I can't believe it's been almost half an hour and we've not mentioned, but AI. You ask an AI provider what your 5-year business plan is, they laugh. They go, it's 6 weeks. Like, what do you want to do? We'll be able to do it in 6 to 8 weeks. Like, how do you incorporate a 5-year business plan with a technology that can change in a matter of weeks? So that's where the profession is going to go. It's going to become more faster moving. It's going to become more complex. I think there's going to be a real push. Which way is it going to? Honestly, I think either fees are going to be forced to come down, or service provided to clients is going to have to go up. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think businesses are going to have to react either way. And I do see power planners as central to either of them.
Yeah. And my take on it, and I know I've mentioned this in a few podcasts recently, is I feel productivity per head is definitely there to increase. And so any firm that is looking to reduce headcount, I think is making the wrong operational decision. And it's actually, how can you get more out of the same people in your team through making processes more efficient? And like you said, the landscape is changing rapidly in terms of being able to produce reports far quicker, far more concise, and far better of a read to a client. And if a power planner can do that quicker, they can get through more reports, help more clients, or even take more better. They might take the same amount of time, but the quality of their time spent on the case means they're thinking more critically about it, which again is another potential increase in service. And if you do all of that and all that productivity is being improved, why wouldn't you as a business go, well, why wouldn't we look to increase headcount now? Because we're operating in a better way. We can help more clients now. We've got more capacity. If we had 1 more, 2 more, 3 more people in the team, it's a non-linear growth opportunity there. And I think that's really exciting. And so I'm very much the opposite of anyone who's the opinion that jobs are going to be lost. I think jobs are going to be created because of this, because we all know there's still a huge shortage of advice across the UK. So it's not like we've run out of clients to advise on. There's still massively that underserved part of the population as well.
I think the big challenge to this profession of the next 5 years isn't AI. Challenge that firms are going to have is articulating the value add as financial planners. Come this spring is when the targeted support kicks off. So that's when the FCA have now said that big banks can segment their clients. So if you're 35, you should be invested in this fund and you should do this. Our clients are going to start getting text messages saying, have you used your ISA allowance? You could invest in this fund. And the FCA are now going to allow that. That's within the targeted support, part of the whole strategy to get more people to get people investing, because I don't think anyone disagrees that the gap between qualified regulated advice and no advice, that gap's too big. So the FCA is trying to have this targeted support in the middle. The reason why I hope I'm wrong, but the reason I think this could be negative impact a lot of the wider public is because we're moving back to transactional advice. We've tried so hard as a profession for holistic advice on an ongoing basis, include your family, good record keeping over a number of years, everything, all the value we add as advisors. In a couple of months, for clients that haven't got a planner, aren't currently engaged in financial planning, they might think advice is doing the RISA, doing the pension for the end of the tax year. So that's the biggest challenge, I think, now, is actually articulating advisors and advising firms being able to articulate the benefits they give to clients. And therefore, the more service are two main points of contact, the greater use of cash flow, tangible takeaways from the cash flow, all these different elements is going to become vital to firms to really demonstrate the value they add to clients, keep up the level of referrals they're expecting, and ultimately keep attracting the clients. Because as you said, the information through ChatGPT that you can question its benefit and its usefulness, but you can't question that the knowledge is now there at essentially a click of a button for a lot of people. Whether it's right for them or not is a whole other question. But if clients think they're able to it, then why would they pay for a financial planner? Now we're sat here and we know financial planners have a I think the need for them will only increase in the future, not decrease. But can we properly articulate that as a profession? That's, again, I think one of the challenges, but again, it's one of the opportunities that the firms that do that, I think will really see the benefits of it.
We've talked about the challenges there of making sure clients understand the value add, but what about also how we get more people into the industry by choosing it as a profession? What's your take on what the industry could do? If you could wave a magic wand, how could we encourage more people to consider this as a career for them?
Oh, I don't want to get political now. I think we have to be more daring as a profession. I've been quite outspoken on LinkedIn, on social media about the student loans. I was in the Sunday Times. I've done a number of articles and interviews on it about how I think the Plan 2 student loan system is unjust. How politicians talk about it and say it's fair in the same breath as saying the debts are wiped off after 30 years. It just sends the complete wrong message to debts. Ignore it, it'll go away. It just sends the whole message. The system that if you earn high rate tax, not only is it RPI, so it's a level of inflation the government doesn't even use, but if you're a high rate taxpayer, they'll then add another 3% on top of the RPI. The whole system is designed to stop those that could pay it off paying it off. Now, I just think it's a terrible policy. I think it's an unjust system. But for our profession, I think we need to start getting involved in those conversations. I think our bodies need to come together and say, we as a collective financial planning profession do not agree with this reason. This is why we don't agree with it. Now, that where it gets, it's easy for me to say in a podcast speaking to you, Ryan. That's easy to say because actually, I don't have any skin in the game of it. I'm just a person working in the profession saying we should all step up. Actually, for organisations to make that stand is harder. So maybe student loans could be a more controversial one, but I do think for us to get more recognition outside of our profession is we need to be able to speak on wider, broader conversations about money in the public. Look at what Martin Lewis is doing. Anyone listening, if you've not got a weekly reminder of what Martin Lewis is talking about that week, and you just put out a blog the same week talking about that, you're missing a trick. And Martin Lewis has cut through the noise and speaks to the public around money, and the trust that people have in him is something this profession can only look at in awe. So again, I think that's what we need to do, is engage in wider conversations around money, around finances, that isn't just pensions and EISs and VCTs and all that technical stuff. It's the more mainstream things.
Yeah, and I've had a number of guests who've agree with you totally. There is actually, if we can get the conversation about finances, money management into schools potentially, it makes financial services a topic where people can evolve and say, hey, I've actually found this really interesting about debt management and credit cards and saving for a mortgage, because everyone's always I'm going to, in my opinion, everyone's always fixated on getting the deposit for a mortgage. No one ever realizes the loan, the affordability element of a mortgage as well, in terms of, well, is your earnings high enough to then be able to, for someone to be willing to lend X amount to you? If we can get all of those parts of the conversations taking place, people then realize that actually people do that for a living, of going out and talking to people. Now, no, debt management, credit cards, mortgages, isn't necessarily part of what a financial planner does, but it does give people an understanding that that exists as
So
a
it's actually
as
interesting you
an
said
industry.
that, because it's not what financial planners have done, but I think it should be what we do doing forward. So my mate's early 30s, they think financial advice is, when should I switch mobile phones? When should I shop around for new car insurance? So we think of financial advice as pensions, as regulated financial advice. They think of it as, actually, can I go afford this new coffee machine? We've actually started working with a few social media influencers that call up saying, can I afford this coffee machine? You go, yes, you absolutely can. So it's actually, the profession needs to not get stuck in its own ways, and we need to react to watch to the next, what the next generation wants. Again, I'd encourage firms to think about the clients you're serving. Clients in their 70s, 80s, retired, they have time to come to an office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, sit for an hour. Grandparents, if they want news, they sit down for 3 hours, they read the Sunday Times on a Sunday for a whole morning, put it down, and they'll go do it again the week after. They digest information very detailed at once. Actually, if I want the news, I'll pick up my phone and go, BBC News, quick scan, okay, done. Again, this is generational changes in how we observe information. And we as a profession have to identify this different clients and what the clients want out of us, the communications we use. Because if you don't change your communication methods, you're just going to be left behind.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that is going to be a really interesting challenge. And I think also the FCA at some point will probably want to have a say on, what is also eligible to be methods of communicating. They'll probably wade in at some point, won't they? And then change the game
Change
again.
something.
But it is interesting in terms of the evolving landscape with the new generations coming through. But I think it's also having a slow knock-on effect to the existing generations that are true, typical financial advisors, clients. They will start to digest things in the way that the younger generations are, because that is going to evolve, and it certainly requires the industry to keep up with that, because I think it's an industry that's always been a little bit behind the times in terms of evolving, but there are pockets of businesses out there who are very forward thinking. Good on them, because they will be at the very forefront of the curve that's happening as we speak. Because like you said, AI is changing it, but also there's more around it with the FCA targeted support, that they're clearly recognizing what you can say is different to previously.
It's nice to see. You never want a profession that's stuck in his ways. But as you said, I think the businesses that are at the forefront, that are embracing technology, that are embracing different mediums to communicate with their clients, that they do stand out to not only clients, but also prospective employees and staff, because we are in a profession where, if you're good, you're in demand. We are in a profession where we know we want to get more talent coming in. We are in an aging profession. And actually, it's the good firms with the right cultures that do the right things for the clients. They do stand out, as I'm sure you certainly probably come across.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I think it's been a fantastic conversation, Sam. We've covered a lot of ground. Obviously, I'll make sure that links to yourself are within the description. You mentioned in terms of the mentoring that you have done and are involved in. I think that's really powerful as well. And obviously, it's also nice that you are present online as well with some of your thoughts. So I'll make sure we get those descriptions.
Perfect.
Links in the description box below, really. For you, is there a final takeaway you want to add at all before I wrap up?
Not really. I think whoever's listening, just take some time to work out what you're all passionate about. You spend more time at work than you do with your own family and friends. So do a job you enjoy. If you don't think it's a role that's available now, we'll work out what you want that role to be and make a pitch for it. And if it's not your current employer, well, then there are good people out there. There are good employees out there. But a real thing is you come across so many people that you look at and go, God, you're a diamond in the dirt. Like, you just need someone to pick you up and dust you off and you'll be fantastic. And so that's my main thing, is don't feel you have to go the route that you're told to go down. So take the time, work out what you enjoy doing and try and forge your own way.
Fantastic. Well, I'll leave it there because you've said that beautifully. So thank you to you, Sam. Also, thank you to you guys listening. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. My plan is to continue to deliver fantastic conversations like we had today. So please do stay tuned for the next episode. And the best way to do that is obviously subscribe. So thank you again. Thank you, Sam. And see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.